right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be. Thank you for joining us. Another episode, Catching Up with Jacob, episode 235, I believe. And I think it is. Yeah, I got it. Okay, good. I think I looked it up earlier. And Jacob is not with us today. He is flying out to Singapore. Please keep him in prayer. But we do have David Lister. David Lister, good morning to you on a Saturday. How are you?
I am good. It's the middle of the night, and I'm in Bangkok. We're heading down to Chamboro. We've been visiting prisons every day. It's been quite interesting, these new prisons.
Very good. Thank you so much for being with us, albeit very early in the morning. So thank you, though, for getting up early. Davey, also Saturday morning, probably, no, probably a little bit later than Thailand, I believe, right, Davey? It is good morning, but it may be a little bit later for you.
Yeah, it's a little later here. It's 5:48 a.m. here at the moment, Saturday morning. So yeah, yeah, David's well and truly up the earliest today.
All right. Hey, Davey, you beat Davey today. This is unbelievable. We never had anybody beat Davey. That is just awesome. Well, thank you both for being here and early. Not so early for us. Jay is still sort of middle of the day here on a Friday in Southern California. How are you?
Doing well. Good to be here, Marco.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you for being with us. And I just want to welcome everyone who's watching us on YouTube and Rumble and Facebook and Vimeo and Telegram and Moriel TV and RTN. Did I mention? Yeah, I mentioned all of them already. Yeah. And X. And our X account keeps growing. So we appreciate you being on with us live on Catching Up with Jacob. And those who will watch later, once the episode goes up, you will see the edited version of it. But you're catching us live now, and we appreciate you being with us. A couple of announcements before we get started. David, do you wanna go first, David? Talk about what when we pray for, obviously for Jacob, but some of the outreaches you guys are doing in Thailand.
Yes, we've been visiting prisons. Scott Noble, who is our missionary over here, has been very active in getting us into prisons. And so we've gotten three new ones, and this next week we're going up to some more. It's interesting, one of the Thailand's biggest singers named Low Society. Sorry, I got it backwards. But we were just at the prison where he was put in. He had a gun thing. So hopefully we'll get to see him when we come back in December. Because we actually used one of his songs, which he says he gave permission to use to reach people through the gospel because they know the tunes, but we changed the words, obviously. So we're having some good results there. And it's just the people were really interested listening to the message of Jesus Christ, but we didn't have one Christian there. And so we were really happy they were involved in the games that answering the questions that Scott does. So I'm excited about reaching new people with the gospel, people that are sitting in jail without any hope, really. Well, this prison we went to was long-term prisons. We go to Chamboro next week, which is maximum security prison. So please pray for the people. They are asking, and they are growing. They wanted Jacob to do a teaching on oh man, a little
Balaam,
too
right?
early.
Balaam?
Balaam, thank you. Yes. So I guess I'm going to have to figure that out, how to get that message to them. So, but yeah, so please pray for the prisoners as if you're one in chains with them. So,
Very
um,
nice. Thank you, David.
yeah, but pray for Jacob. His legs are really bad. He's going to fly to Singapore today, where they have modern medicine, top flight care. And so he'll be there today, and then hopefully his doctor is in Portugal right now. But hopefully we can get some good doctors there. There's great doctors in Singapore, so please pray for Jacob and his legs.
Yes, thank you so much
There
for
he
that.
is.
He'll be in Singapore, so keep him in prayer as his recovers from just a trip, and his legs are needing some help, needing some prayer from the Lord, from us to the Lord. Need some help from the Lord regarding that. So thank you, David. Jay, you want to talk a little bit about our platforms where people can find us, of course, podcast and the rest.
Of course. First, I'd like to just mention that if you have not already, the two places that you need to subscribe to, which are really growing great, is Moriel Chapel on YouTube. Also, please make sure to subscribe to our Moriel TV channel. It is growing and it is great because it is ad-free. There are no interruptions. You watch the whole things without having to press skip or anything. It's fabulous. And finally, if you are going to go on a long car trip, maybe fly to some exotic locale and give the gospel. Well, you can prepare your message by listening to our many podcasts. Great Bible exposition. You have Marco, you have Sandy, you have Jacob. They're all available for download so that when you put your phone in the airplane mode, it still plays.
It does still play. I tried it. It actually does work exactly as you say, Jay. Thank you so much for that. And find us in all those locations. You can go to moriel.org, find more information. But all the platforms Jay mentioned, they're absolutely there. And excited about podcast as well because it's easy to carry with you. Trying to find a signal sometimes it's hard, like on a plane. And you can avail yourself of that. So I'm going to go to Davey. Davey, real quick, any announcements? I know Jacob's heading down there to Australia, New Zealand, and some of the USB sticks that you guys are working on for the rest of the body.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Please keep Jacob in prayer, especially regarding his health, his flights, and everything like that. But yeah, Jacob will be in Sydney June 7th and June 8th. 3 meetings, two on the Saturday at 1 p.m. and 3 p.m., one on the Sunday at 10 a.m., Sunday morning, and then in Brisbane on June 10th, Tuesday, June 10th. 2 meetings, one at 2 p.m. and the other a little bit after 7 p.m. We will have a new USB available at the conference, about a 64 gigabyte size, full of some of Jacob's more recent teachings. And of course, we'll still have Marco's quintessential Quintana available there too. Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to officially say next weekend because I've got to have it completed by next weekend. So for the tour, so by next weekend, we should be able to start sending these out to those who have already put in an advanced order.
Praise the Lord. Thank you so much, Davey. There's a lot of work being involved in that. The ones you guys made for us were fantastic. People love them and they appreciate that. If you want more information, please contact Davey. Davey, did I miss it? Did you give your email address just in case people wanted them?
Oh, no, I didn't today.
Yeah. Okay. I
yeah,
thought I
but
missed it. Sorry.
if you're interested, just email me at the easiest thing is email me at davyrosengreen@gmail.com. It's DAVYROSENGREEN@gmail.com.
Amen. Yeah, absolutely. And so if you want more information, you can avail yourself of these USBs are fantastic. Talk about podcasts, right? Talk about getting it on a hard drive or on a flash drive. This way you are somewhat, always caveat, somewhat protected. You're not connected directly to the internet. Let's say you can download it from a podcast. It's still your phone, but you could also carry it on a hard drive, on a flash drive. That makes it a lot more, I guess you could say, a lot more protected from being on the internet, and you can carry it with you. And some cars even now have a way to put it into your car. You can play it from there. You obviously can play it from your computer, laptop, and sometimes you can plug it into your iPad if you know how to do that. That would be good. That would be easier to deal with, and you can avail yourself of many good stuff on flash drive. So just to remind everyone, please keep Jacob in prayer. keep David in prayer, of course, as they're going into Thailand, but Jacob's health, and that he would have the strength of the Lord to get through the final part of the trip. David, am I correct? This is the last leg of the trip. Is Australia, New Zealand will be the last leg of the trip? I believe so.
Yeah, from New Zealand, he comes back to Australia just to transfer and then on to Los Angeles.
Yeah, so okay, so that you guys are the last leg of the trip, so great. And so he's almost done with that, but that would take another week. So please keep him in prayer as the part of the team is in Thailand, preaching and teaching there with our dear brother Scott. Keep those men and women in prayer that are helping in the ministry there in Thailand. So Vietnam, I heard went really well. Can't say too much about it here, but we'll talk about it another time. But obviously, Philippines, now Thailand. I think they visited Japan already. It was a quick stop, and then into Australia and New Zealand. So, with all that said, I don't know if we have David. David's still on? I don't know.
Coffee.
Oh, it's essential that he makes coffee right now because, it is what, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning?
Just about. Just about. Well, I did want to wish everybody in the U.S. Happy Memorial Day weekend. There's David. David, I wanted to ask you as we celebrate Memorial Day, as we catch up here and we start Memorial Day weekend, your family, obviously, your father served in the military for a long time. Just wanted to get your brief thoughts on Memorial Day weekend. Obviously, barbecues, friends, family, freedom were all bought and paid for by the blood in the lives of many men who gave their lives for the freedom that we enjoy here in America as Christians. We thank the Lord for the freedoms, but it wasn't cheap. It was bought with a tremendous price. And of course, as Christians, we're free from sin, but we love the fact that in our nation, we have the freedom so far that were paid by patriots that served this country and fought against evil. And your father was served the military for a long time. Just your thoughts on what Memorial Weekend means to you.
Well, I was thinking about my father this week, and I'm over here, and there's a lot of visitors from Korea. And so I kind of celebrated it a little bit differently. I tell all the Koreans I met that my father went to their country in 1952 and at Incheon,
Mm,
and they're all and he saw what they did with their country. He got to see all the beautiful pictures and they're from Korea, all the buildings and the freedom they have. And he said, yeah, when you see that they do something good with their freedom, he said it's worth it,
mm,
and he said, I wish we had went to this 22nd parallel and freed North Korea at the same time. But that's politics. But all the Koreans always say, oh, thank you so much. And they like bow to me and thank you for your dad's service. And and things like that. And they appreciate it. So that's kind of nice that you can actually see people, and it's not just young people, but it's old people that know what America did for them, gave them freedom. And
mm.
so that's like a really cool visual understanding that they do know they were bought with a price.
Yeah,
And many American soldiers. So that's been good for me because I miss my dad and
of
everything.
course.
He loved America. He loved what it stood for, and he served in multiple wars and multiple campaigns and saw a lot of death and saw lots of war. So, but he believed, and if you look at Vietnam, Vietnam looks like America.
Mm,
You got KFC, Pepsi, Coke. Everything's there. And the Japanese people have a special relationship, believe it or not, with Americans, according to their prime minister, better than any in the world. Because they're like, if you go into the stores in Thailand, you go into the stores in all the others, you'll see a lot of products from Vietnam. So they're manufacturing a direct threat against China's rebranding of products. They actually produce products. They buy lots of cotton from Africa and produce that. A lot of flax they grow in their own country for linen. So hardworking people, and they love motorcycles. I have there are so many motorcycles I've never seen. I got a picture, 40-second picture of nothing but motorcycles. I'm talking a mob.
Yeah,
Nothing, just motorcycle after motorcycle all day long. So
incredible.
it's quite interesting. And so they're doing real well. From although that was a war that we lost, it was a political war, and we lost 50,000 men there, men and women, and but the people don't think of the war; they think of the prosperity that they have, and what Jacob. We can't say a lot about up there, but they're actually having Christian growth up in North Vietnam,
Praise the
and
Lord.
that they're having uh, 2-year colleges. Their students are now going through to become pastors. So it is growing there. So praise God.
Yeah, may the
Praise
grace
the
of the
Lord.
Lord be with them. Absolutely. So thank you, David. Thank you for your thoughts on Memorial Day weekend. It's a fantastic opportunity to let people know if you know a veteran, if you see a veteran, thank them, because many men and
Absolutely.
women have died for the service of this nation. So, with all that said, David, Jay, and Davey. I know Jacob's not here, but let's catch up. David, we'll start with you. Domestic terrorism in the U.S. against Jews and Christians, street execution style, two Israeli, one a man, one a young lady, one from Kansas, one from Jerusalem. They're both Israeli, one Israeli American, shot dead, cold blood in the streets of Washington, D.C., outside the Jewish Museum. Had a tour there. This is right across from the FBI headquarters there, the building. They were killed cold blooded by a Chicago born man radicalized. Antifa connections, leftist ideology, shouting free Palestine when he was arrested. This is no longer a concept that we see in America. Well, this is going on in Europe. This is going on in the Middle East. This is right now in our streets. And nobody seems to be interested in providing any kind of stopping or deterrent toward this horrific event. So there were Israeli diplomats. They worked at the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. David, your thoughts? Yaron Lishinsky and Sarah Milgram are no longer with us. They were executed right outside the museum. What a tragedy.
It is. And it's also reported that they were Messianic believers.
Yeah, we're going to come back to that at the end. They
Oh,
definitely
okay.
were, yeah, definitely were believers. And
So they're not with
so
us, but in a better place.
absolutely,
Much
they're
better
with the Lord.
place.
But it's tragic that's left behind. This man, Rodriguez. I'm not
Elias
sure.
Rodriguez. Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible that this is happening, but in persecution is across the world is increasing, and now it's in America's face. This Palestine issue that has been fermenting, and the liberalism is supporting that on their campuses. Trump is trying to fight against the liberal mindset and trying to prevent some of this, but it's so deep rooted now. You're seeing people walking up and no problem killing and execution of people here in the United States. Uh, Elsewhere across the world, this is happening. And the message for Palestine is permeating the whole world. They're doing a great job. I think we talked about this well over a year ago, Marco, on how
Yes.
they believe this is their time.
Time. Yeah.
And it certainly looks like it, and they're pushing for their own state, and so there's still some rising questions here of what it's going to look like and what they're going to do and how will they build out of the ashes? Will the world fund them again?
Yeah. I'm
So
going to go to Jay real quick. Jay, it is no longer a world problem. It's over there. And it was brought here and it was definitely fomented by the universities and what they did. But the Democrats and the left were very happy that it was just, well, what's a big deal? It's just freedom of speech, First Amendment. It's only on campuses. That's no longer the case. It's spilled now onto the streets. Your thoughts on that?
Last year, Qatar, and I'm just talking about Qatar. We're not talking about, that's not the biggest form of funding that the universities get. But last year, Qatar gave $4.7 billion to American universities. I want you to put that in context. When that much money goes to a place that is educating young people, what do you think the indoctrination is going to be? Qatar obviously is going to be pro-Palestinian. So that money buys access to get your message out to students. This man that shot these two people in Washington, he was radicalized probably on a campus. And he was radicalized by organizations that are bought and paid for by Saudis, by Qataris. It's a very unique point in history where we can identify Jewish nationalism as an evil satanic thing called Zionism. But yet, when it comes to the colonization of the world, not a small piece of land in the Middle East, we have no language that would call the Islamic colonization of the world in the same terms. And in fact, in the consciousness of people, they're more tolerant of Palestinians because Palestinians are Arabs. But let's be truthful here. They're Arabs. How many places outside of Arabia is Islam and Arabia colonizing? Well,
Right.
The whole world.
Africa, Europe, etc.
So I there needs to be from the other side. There's not a good response. Everyone in the academic world, in the leftist, and now even in the right wing, are moving to the Jews over everything. Well, if they did, they'd have a much better propaganda. They have much better propaganda. They're losing the war of propaganda right now.
Yeah, if they do have that, they're doing a terrible, terrible job of not only protecting themselves, controlling the world, and controlling the media. Davey, I'm going to go to you. Davey, your thoughts all the way from Australia. How does it look like from there when you see you've had dealt with your own anti-Semitism in Australia, in Victoria. You were to Sydney just not too long ago and you saw it firsthand. But when you see something like this, you haven't quite had that in Australia by the grace of God, but we have it here now. And maybe signals to the rest of the Western world that this is something that is going to be now on our own streets.
Yeah. Well, that was the one thing that was surprising about the attack. The attack actually kind of didn't surprise me, but I actually thought it would have actually happened here in Australia first. The anti-Semitism here is that bad that that was the only thing that surprised me. I think we're going to see this kind of thing happen more and more, unfortunately. We've had so much talk from our politicians about anti-Semitism. They're going to fight anti-Semitism, but that's only just been a cloak for passing other bills, which is going to basically censor free speech and that kind of thing. They haven't been legit. In fact, our politicians are largely at fault for a lot of this, for pushing the Free Palestine narrative and for not doing anything about it. It's kind of like, I mean, it's crazy. You cannot. You'd be arrested and charged for, the stupidest little thing, but to actually incite violence against Jews or Christians, that's acceptable. That gets a free pass here. So I'm just surprised this sort of thing hasn't actually happened more or sooner. I do pray for the Jewish community here because I think it's only going to get worse. Penny Wong, the ABC. Penny Wong actually she condemned the attack, but she in a way is kind of responsible for it too, because it was only a few days later she came out with some anti-Semitic thing. But the ABC, they even did a spin on it where they were kind of trying to justify the murders of these two people. So that shows you how gutter the ABC is.
Wow.
But the mentality here, the mentality of people here, most of them are tuned out. Most of them, they only hear a little bit of the news. And now I kind of understand why, repeat the lie often enough, and people will believe it,
Yeah.
because people are really only here. I've realized this more and more in recent weeks. They're only really concerned with their own lives here in this world. They're only really concerned with, their holidays, their children's weddings, or, what the latest thing going on in their life is. And then they just hear little bits of snippets. They hear that, they hear, yeah, Israel's the oppressor. They hear that, Trump's bad. They
Yeah.
believe all that stuff, and they never really digest it or look into it. They're not taught to critically think here in the schools, but it's the people of my age and older who are the guilty ones.
Mm.
We should be setting the role model for the younger ones, showing them how to critically think, showing them how to process information. But we're not, and the church is just as bad here. The church is just woke signaling here too. They're just
Wow.
as bad. But I'm just surprised this sort of thing didn't actually happen here first. I'm thankful it kind of didn't, but I mean, I'm not happy with what happened either. And I think it should be a wake-up call to all of us around the world.
Yeah, Davey, I'm going to stay with you real quick. Davey, I'll stay with you because you mentioned the freedom of speech and all the regulations online. You should have seen the social media things that went off. I mean, the people were just going absolutely nuts on social media, cheering the killing, the murder of the two Israeli staffers. You had social media saying more Luigi, more Elias. Of course, talking about Luigi Mangione, who killed the healthcare CEO, as it were, just cheering it on, saying, "Well, this is part of the violence that needs to take place in order to get justice." But none of these social media posts are taken down or regulated. It just seems that as long as you have the right message, according to the tribunals, that AKA the society and the leftist ideology. As long as you have the right message, you can say whatever you want against Christians or against Jews, even if they are murdered.
Yep, it's double standards, and this is where, if you were in the UK at the moment and you put up some post about, uh, you know, um, migrants coming into the country and taking jobs away from people or something to that effect, something that's pretty a misdemeanor. If you put something like that, I can guarantee you'd have the police on your doorstep within 24 hours, the post to be taken down, you'd be in prison, fined. They would make life difficult for you. But if you praise the killing of two innocent people, that's acceptable. The governments are tolerating this, so the governments are guilty. The governments have blood on their hands.
Mm.
They are, what do you call it? Accomplices.
Accomplice.
Really.
Yeah, they're
Yes.
accomplices to this. Absolutely. David, I'm going to go back to you. And you mentioned earlier that they were believers. Obviously, this is an attack on Jews and Christians as well, because they were believers. Yaron was a believer in Jerusalem, his fellowship there. And by all means of people that knew him, he was a very strong, committed follower of Yeshua. And he was going to propose to his girlfriend, who Sarah, who had also a believer. I think she was born in Kansas, but Israeli family, and both not here on earth, but with the Lord. And what does that signal? At least you signal to believers today. We sorrow, but not like those who have no hope, but also strong signal to believers, especially young Jewish believers who are targeted not only for being Jews, but for being Christians, but also the whole body of Christ, who unfortunately, this was a horrible thing to happen to the body. Even though people didn't know who Yaron was, he was basically a diplomat here in the United States, but lived in Israel. So your thoughts on that?
We live in a place of sin and death, and our lives are uncertain from day to day, from accidents and disease, everything. And so people should not put stock in this world. Don't hold on to this place. Jacob said that many times. Don't hold on to this place because it is a place of sin and death. But be ready to go in every day. Have your life in order, your sin lifts straight up, and so it's so uncertain. These two beautiful people celebrating life, looking forward to children and the things, and then wiped out in a second of uncertainty. And so it is for all of us this way. And so my message was make sure that you know Jesus Christ and Him crucified and be ready at all times because you never know nowadays. So it is a reminder. And and when I heard that they were Christians, I heard first it was Jews, and I kind of mourned, and and I did warn that, oh no, these two young people. But then my mourning was not the same once I heard they were believers. And and I always think Stephen, when he was martyred, the scripture says that Jesus is sitting on the throne, but when Stephen sees him, he's standing up as if to greet the first Christian martyr.
Yeah.
And so here I wonder just to myself, I wonder if he still rises for Christian martyrs to welcome him.
Yeah.
So
obviously, as a martyrs, welcome, and they get a crown. The Bible tells us, Scripture tells us, get a crown. I'm going to go to Jay real quick. The obviously the good news is that this man has been captured, although he yelled "Free, free Palestine" when he was captured. But he's been arrested, charged with murder by the new U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, which many people are very happy that she's there because she is. Hopefully no nonsense, and they might even charge him with the death penalty if all goes through okay. Which obviously none of this is going to bring the two wonderful young people back, as David talked about. The FBI. It's on the case. Dan Bongino is on the case. He's got to make sure that justice is served. Right across the street from the FBI building is where they were shot and killed. You would think they would have been safe, but it looks like the FBI hasn't done its job recently. Your comments on this recent week? We found out a lot about the FBI and Bongino and Patel. Much of it very disappointing.
Dan Bongino, the same Dan Bongino that told us that Epstein committed suicide. He's on the case.
He's on the case.
Yeah.
Got to find out, and he's going to bring justice.
Yeah, justice is the last thing that Bongino is going to do. I have to say this week for me was probably the most disappointing week I have ever seen as far as people who promise and then completely just do a 180. If he's on the case, you can expect more of these radicalizations to happen. You can expect more Christians, more Jews to be dead in the streets. You can expect the rhetoric to continue. And you can basically just go ahead and say, more children are going to be abused, because what we've seen from this FBI, I thought I heard Patel saying, I'm going to go in there and just do a wrecking ball to this, and we're going to completely rebuild it. No, it's more of the same of the usual. Oh, he looked straight in the face of a camera with Maria Bartolomeo right there and say, everything that I see in the file, Epstein committed suicide. Well, we might as well say everything. I looked at the file. Everything points to the fact that this guy was not radicalized by Islam and was not a leftist. You might as well say that. We're going to deny reality. And we're going to deny reality for what? For a narrative. And by the way, I'll take it one step further. It's even worse when you consider the Saudis, the Qataris. They're going to put more money in the United States, and that money gives access to radicalize more people to the Palestinian propaganda narrative. So
the Qataris are they are Al Jazeera. Put it that way. They are Al Jazeera. It's pretty much one and the same. With all the money and propaganda, they control Al Jazeera. So yeah, you're right. You're right.
Money buys access. And I can't help but think that when you have Dan Bongino and Kash Patel now making good money, I mean, Dan Bongino, 2 years ago, he was making $1 million. He was making $1 million. And now he's making $1 million. And 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 he's they have a salary according to the U.S. government, but I can't help think that once you get into those halls of power, there's some payola there too. Because the body language of that interview with Patel and with Bongino was horrendous.
Mm. Jake, double agents or compromise, or maybe a third choice?
Well, I mean, you and I have speculated in the past, Matt Getz would have been a far better choice than Kash Patel, I think. And I think he was held up because he would have been the wrecking ball. I think Patel was the safe choice. He was the candidate that they wanted. They complained. They protested too much, perhaps. But he's a lapdog. You can tell he's a lapdog because what did he say? Everything I read in the report. Well, I can make a report too, Mr. Patel. And my report would say a camera was off, the guards were conveniently asleep, and his cellmate was taken out of the frickin' cell. Is that all coincidence, sir?
So what the report says, right? That's what the report says. I'm just reading it off the report. Jay, will there ever be a true Jack Ryan in America? Just like it's obviously we're talking about a movie, Patriot Games.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. Will there ever be one like that will be like, you know what? Come what may, truth needs to be told.
Well, I think I do have to say this. What I'm seeing from RFK is very hopeful.
Yeah.
What I'm seeing from RFK is a man that's standing up to the system and doesn't care the consequences. He's doing what seems to be right. But that's a drop in the bucket of complete slime that is our government from the top all the way down. I'm so disappointed. I had such great hope for this administration, but time and time again, whether it be Paula White, whether it be deals with people who ideologically are America's enemies. You cannot have peace with fundamental Islamic regimes and say that you have a democratic friend. When's the last time there was an election in Saudi Arabia?
Oh, no, never, ever.
Never.
Yeah.
When's the last time a church was built in Saudi Arabia, a Christian church?
Never.
Okay.
Never.
When's the last time a new Islamic center was built in the United States?
Well,
which one? 4 of them.
Yeah. David, let's try to go to you real quick. Your thoughts on the FBI? I mean, FBI is in shambles. I mean, a lot of people have hope, like Jay, like myself, that hey, this might be God's grace in terms of getting the right people in there to make anything possible to make it right, at least somewhat right. I mean, we're talking politics and compromises, which is part and parcel of it. But at least maybe the right people would get in place, all to be disappointed. Lots of people are disappointed in Pam Bondi. Lots of people disappointed in Patel. Lots of people disappointed in Bongino, to say the least. What about you?
Well, I've never been a fond of the FBI from finding out that they spied on my generation. Nothing's changed. They're still spying on Americans. And the one guy that had to leave the country that told the truth is over in Russia. He said, hey, look, they're spying on you. They got all your records and everything.
Snowden.
Snowden, yeah. Yeah, he's so I'd like to see the FBI dissolved. I think, when an organization just gets so bad, can it be fixed? I don't think so. But then, when you look at Solomon saw his court system when he toured him was corrupt, but he never did remove anybody because he knew that if he removed people, they would be twice the son of the devil, because everybody knew it was corrupt. So it's just the world we live in. And we're always hopeful. We're Christians, we're always hopeful and wanting something better for this world. But we keep seeing this world is where it's headed. And it's running down, and the instability across the world, and the when you read Matthew 24, when I think about from when I read it 50 years ago, oh, it wasn't so bad, But now when we're 50 years along, we're going, oh man, this stuff is not only becoming true, it's becoming truer and truer, and it's accelerating and things, and the birth pangs are getting stronger and the tremors are getting stronger. So yeah, I don't have much hope for the FBI. And they're going to continue to do what they were because the powers that be wanted to be able to spy on everybody. I'm seeing over here the WHO got refunded and the problems with it, wanting another pandemic. People are talking about pandemic over here more than anything. It's crazy. They want to shut everything down again.
So more status quo. Go ahead, Jay.
If I could really just quickly, if I had to compare the FBI to maybe a biblical example, I would say that in the time of the Kings and the Chronicles, there were the high places. I would say that the FBI and the CIA are the high places.
Oh, you're not talking about Bohemian Grove, are you?
I'm talking. Well, yeah, I'm definitely. I'm making that connection. The high places where they gather to worship their foreign gods.
Yeah, and did all kinds of sexual, activity and many miscreants there. What a mess! What a mess! This is why as Christians we long for Jesus to come. We long for righteousness to dwell in the land because you can't find a righteous man on the earth. It seems like I remember Jeremiah was told by the Lord, he was going to judge the place, and Jeremiah's like, well, what if I go to Jerusalem and if I find righteous people? And God said, if you find a righteous person in Jerusalem, I won't judge the place. He couldn't find anybody. And this was the priest, and this was the temple priests and the scribes and the leaders. They were all corrupt. What a time. And what a time. And you definitely feel like, in Jeremiah's days going into going into churches, you feel like you're going into a den of thieves, going into places of worship. You feel like, what is this? What have we become? But there is a time for repentance. I want to switch gears very quickly to Israel and the nations. And I'm going to start with Davey here real quick. Davey, Netanyahu spoke about the plan, Gaza, relocation of people from Gaza to other places, maybe Trump's plan of getting them into Libya and all that. But the reaction from the world, and I wanted to start with you because the reaction, of course, from the world has been very similar to what Australia has had reacted to Israel over the years, especially in the Albanese administration. And Netanyahu says he's going to continue to get Hamas out of Gaza. That's his goal. Get the hostages back. But the world has literally turned on that specific issue, that he is killing Gazans, he's killing Palestinians in Gaza, he's not giving them food. And we all know that Hamas has been very good about taking food away from all the aid that comes in, has been taking it for them and not to the people, never really gets to the children, never really gets to the people. But you've seen the UK, France, other nations come and repudiate Israel, blocking them. Trade negotiations have been stalled. Your thoughts on that particular part, and you can comment on other areas too regarding Israel and Gaza, but what you see from other nations. Obviously, I don't know off the top of my head if Albanese has made any comments or Penny Wong has made any comments regarding that. I'm sure they have, but we just haven't seen it. But I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I definitely know Penny Wong has made statements. I haven't heard much from Albanese of late, not since he's, haven't heard anything since he's got back from his visit to the Pope.
Oh, joy.
Oh, yeah. But, yeah, what we see happening is basically what the Bible said. Basically, the whole world is turning and coming against Israel. The crazy thing is, it's kind of like the more they come against Israel, the more they kind of ramp up let's just take Australia, for example, pushing the welcome to country and, all that kind of thing, acknowledging the indigenous people of the land kind of thing, but they will not do that with Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Yet what they're actually doing with the welcome to country things here is a lot of it is a con. It's a money-making scheme. Basically, like at a AFL game, the average welcome to country ceremony there costs around about $10,000, which is being paid for by our taxpayer
Wow.
money. But I'm digressing a little bit, but we do see the whole world turning against Israel at the moment. Our leaders, they're pushing for the Palestinian state. I think Netanyahu, he's in a position where it's hard to please everyone, and I think he needs to think of what's best for his country. It's kind of, since October 7th, it's been really hard to fathom the fact that our media, our politicians have made excuses for the to justify the attacks, and they continue to spread the pro-Palestinian propaganda. Just this week, the ABC was reporting that fake reports of the number of people killed in Gaza. I think there was a report going around. I think there was something like 14,000 or something like that. It was a bogus report. It was a bogus report, but they were using that to justify the killings of these two people, in Washington. It's saying, 14,000 people died, so, what's two people basically, justifying it.
Yeah.
Israel's becoming increasingly alone here. They've got an ally with the US at the moment, but we're seeing Macron, we're seeing Germany, we're seeing the EU, we're seeing Australia, all kind of coming against Israel, saying we've got to deal with this. We've got to deal with this. Urging for recognition of a Palestinian state or the formation of a Palestinian state, I don't like what I see happening. I see judgment coming upon our countries basically for doing this, God tells us he will bless those who bless thee and curse those who curse thee. And at the moment, we're aligning ourselves against God's people, both the Jews and Christians. And I do see judgment coming to our countries. The situation with Gaza, look, to be perfectly frank, I wish Israel, with the help of the US, would just go in, take it back. They gave up the land for peace. It didn't work. It's time for them basically to take it back. Boot Hamas out. Boot Hamas out. It's kind of like they've been given a chance for peace. They've shown they don't want peace. That's the reality of the situation. You need to deal with the reality of the situation. The fact that, the poor women and children are being murdered. Reason why they're being killed is Hamas. They don't value the lives of their women and children. They'll build their rocket bases, their attack bases under schools, hospitals, in the area where women and children are there to shield them from being attacked, because Israelis do value life. They'll do everything they can to minimize the casualties. What the Hamas do is they do everything to maximize the casualties. And the reality of the situation is, look, they just need to make that move. Gaza needs to be taken back. You cannot appease the enemy. Trying to appease the enemy is only going to lead to more bloodshed, more killing, and that'll only lead to further, what would you call it? Negative reaction from the world. It's kind of like they basically need to make their move, and they need to make their move soon. It'll be an unpopular decision by the world, but Whatever decision they make is going to be unpopular. You need to do what's best for the country. They need to do what's best for Israel at the moment.
To your point, Davey, and I'm going to go to David Lister in a minute. To your point, Yahya Sinwar used to make this comment, and we know he did because of the emails that have been intercepted and some of the videos that he has mentioned that he wanted more casualties in Gaza. He wanted it. He wanted more casualties. He didn't care about his own people because he says we could always use it to blame it on the Jews. So the fact that they could build a rocket factory in a school, in a nursery, in a hospital, they can have soldiers in people's homes. That didn't really matter to them because to them it was just numbers. It wasn't children, it wasn't women. It was just how can we blame this on the Israeli IDF, on the Israeli Defense Force? So to your point, it's absolutely true. David Lister, I'm going to go to you real quick. Trucks have entered now Gaza after obviously some of the blockade was there to get Hamas out of there, but the people just seem to absolutely love Hamas. They don't want to overthrow. I'm not blaming the little children, the innocent ones that they don't know. They're just pawns unfortunately, by Hamas, being used by Hamas. But now there is a sorry 30 days in trucks have entered in. This has caused France, the UK, the EU. Davey mentioned Australia, some of the comments are made, but at least for France, the recognition of a Palestinian state is on the table. They want to almost like hold it over Israelis' head that unless you do what we tell you, we're going to do this. And then, of course, the UK has suspended trade talks. And all you have to hear was David Lammy's horrible speech in Parliament. Unjustifiable, he says, morally wrong, never talking about all the morally and unjustifiable things Hamas does. It was laughable on one end, tragic on another sense. But Europe has really taken this role, David, of not just being anti-Semitic, but holding the flag and leading the charge against the Jewish people.
Real quick comment. So, Mr. Lammy, I seem to recall a conflict called, the Northern Ireland conflict.
Yeah.
Was the military action of the British unjustified in Northern Ireland? Because I seem to recall there was quite a bit of deaths of children and civilians.
Horrible. But
you guys should have just pulled out, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Just let it play out. Let it play out. But no, they had to do it. Very good point, Jay. David, your thoughts? Because Huckabee even came out, Ambassador Huckabee, Israel ambassador from the U.S., saying the European leaders are wrong for condemning Israel. You're wrong, and you're blaming the wrong perpetrator. Says you're missing the point of what this is all about.
Yeah. Well, what we're seeing is the world is being turned over to a evil conscience. The Bible talks about a good conscience, a bad conscience, a seared conscience, and then ultimately ending in an evil conscience where evil is called good and good is evil. And this is what you're seeing. People are rallying behind a terrorist organization that is guilty of the sins of the Canaanites, the incredible things they teach their children from the time they can talk to hate another people, specifically the Jews. And there's no denying this. There's videos out there of these children and in schools and everything being, little girls. I want to have babies soon so that my sons will grow up to kill Jews, out of their mouths. And so you've got this cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying, well, maybe we could remove them from Gaza. Well, okay, you got this living cancer, and so let's take it out of Gaza. No matter where you put this tumor, it's going to grow there. You know what I mean? There's no winning with this. I know it's crazy to think this. There's only either total destruction of Hamas, but that means every man, woman, and child, which the world will not accept. And because the world has gone into supporting evil, wherever you look, from South Africa, from the Middle East, evil is being supported. Even here how does a man who is shown killing another man on television be worshipped as a hero?
Yeah.
Mangione.
Angioni, yeah, yeah. And they're gonna make a movie about him, David. The movie's a
How
movie.
how has the world reached this state?
Mm,
Marco, how has it gotten so that good is evil and evil is good? And
yeah.
and there's no voice crying.
Yeah. In the wilderness.
No truth.
Yeah.
No
Oh,
truth.
true.
I was thinking for all those ones, crying about, oh, the poor children, who've been, killed in Gaza and all the rest of it, they go on about the children being killed. Usually they're the most pro-abortion people possible. In fact, they're, the ones in New South Wales have just passed the most radical, abortion laws kind of ever we've seen here, So it's kind of like if they really love and care about children, why don't they start by championing for, the unborn children, fight for their lives?
Davey,
It's
how dare you? Those aren't
hypocrisy.
children. They're just fetuses. They're not real people. The
Blobs of cell.
Gazans, yeah, blobs of cells. They're not real breathing children outside the womb.
Mm.
Well,
Yeah.
they're talking right up to birth here at the moment, and even if they're
What?
yeah, and even if they're born here, basically they're left to die on the floor if
Oh.
they're unwanted.
Yeah.
A woman can have a baby aborted during childbirth if she so chooses.
The world is worshiping at the foot of Moloch worldwide and children. And here, even in the United States, more federal dollars this year are going to the abortion, Planned Parenthood than at any time before. And abortions are still being carried out here in America. Shame on us. Shame on America. Look, no, Jesus got to come to clean this place up. It's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, they talk about how they don't, that the Israelis are killing women and children, and what about that pregnant woman that was killed in the West Bank? As an Israeli woman killed in the West Bank. She was pregnant. I think she was 9 months pregnant or something like that. So I think the baby survived, but it's no one talks about that. No one relates to that, even though yeah, it is a life. It's a baby's life. But Davey, I'm going to go to you real quick. UK, Canada, France ideologically alongside the EU, the rest of the EU are looking at this and they're lining themselves up. Canada, of course, here in the West has more to do with the EU than anybody else. You think Australia's going to go down the road of trade talk negotiations with Israel, go the way of Europe, or are they going to stand still and not maybe not take a stance with Trump, but maybe not at all?
Okay, look at the from what I imagine, I think Australia is definitely going to go the way of Europe and all the rest of it. I did notice while Elbow was over there in Rome at the Pope's inauguration, he was busy chatting up Keir Starmer and Zelensky, and uh, yeah, I better be good. I better not say what I was thinking. Yeah, but you might be able to imagine where I was going with that. But yeah, look, I think yeah, they're definitely going to do everything they can to fight against Trump's tariffs. They're definitely going to do everything they can to yeah, they really want this Palestinian state. They're going to come against Israel. Our government, Elbow's been a pro-Palestinian dude from back in his college days. So
Incredible how they get into power right around this time. Jay, I'm going to go to you real quick. The EU not only against Israel and putting some trade talks on the back burner, but now they bring in Ukraine to these trade talks and ban Russia. More money for Ukraine, along with, by the way, Canada also approved just billions toward Ukraine. New sanctions on Russia, but this is all uncoupled from the U.S. negotiations with Israel and U.S. negotiations with Russia and Ukraine, trying to make a peace deal. We all know about Trump's 2-hour conversation with Putin. Didn't bring a lot of fruit, but nonetheless, the U.S. is sort of being removed out of the equation. Does the EU have any gravitas to kind of implement their own plan? They got enough problems on their own, but they seem to want to navigate this course by themselves.
Well, I think they are still thinking that Europe is the center and the leader of the world. Unfortunately, I think the leaders of the world are the people who buy Europe rather than Europe itself, unfortunately.
Ooh.
And, the people who buy Europe, unfortunately, they want a continued conflict with Ukraine and Russia. They want to punish Russia. And I don't know what the end goal is really with this. Russia's not going to throw up their hands one day and say, we're sorry, and give you the land back. That's not going to happen. We're too far down the road. So there really is no solution other than continued punishment of Russia. But we have to ask the question, why is Russia being punished?
That's a great question. Maybe they made the great sin of not listening to Europe.
But, this brings up a bigger question. EU is so interested in continuing a conflict where little children are dying and being blown up, civilians are dying, women and children, and thousands and thousands of people are dying in Ukraine, but they want to stop a war between the Jews and the Palestinians. That doesn't compute. Shouldn't they love life equally? Are there good people that die, and there's bad people that die? Are lives worth more in their eyes in Europe? Some lives?
I guess some, but not really.
Ukrainian lives, very,
Yeah.
very, 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 very cheap. Palestinians, very, very expensive.
Yeah, no, it's like we said, even when the war started, until the last Ukrainian, that's really NATO and the EU's support, until the last Ukrainian to get what they want. David Lister, I'll go over to you. They're not waiting for Trump. They want to make a deal with Iran. They want to make a deal with Ukraine. I think they're going to make a deal with Russia. They want to make a deal with the Palestinians. Europe's in trouble financially, all kinds of problems going on. This will lead into the global economy talk that we're going to have. But what is Europe dealing with here? Why are they so adamant about being first among, I guess they always say we're equal, the five eyes, but they want to be first among equals?
Well, I think Europe, and just like most of the rest of the world, they all hate Trump and they all want to see the United States collapse, and they think if we can get the U.S. out of the way, then they can ascend to the position that they've always deserved, and that's the thinking that we're standing in the way of their greatness, but they've never been great. They're always fighting among each other, and Europe is going to continue because Jesus has told us they're not going to get along. What does a Polish guy have as far as understanding with an Irishman? It's they can't even get along on what.
We lose David?
I think we lost David.
Yeah, I think we lost David. Jay, I'm going to go over to you real quick.
I'll make a real quick comment that will go back to. I have a novel solution.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about Palestine, as David so eloquently mentioned, that it was like cancer.
Yeah.
Here's a novel idea. There's lots of burnout towns that were probably really nice in Ukraine as compared to Palestine. We could relocate them to Ukraine. Then Zelensky will get even more money.
Honey, he'll get double. He'll get the double. Yeah. Go, David, back to you. I think we lost you for about a few seconds.
Yeah, it came up, said it was unstable, my connection. Here it is in the middle of the night. You would think I have a lot of connection.
Yes, people are watching Netflix this late or early in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I was saying about the EU wants to ascend and they can't even get along with each other. You know, Paul, what does he have in common with an Irishman? These guys can't even get together on what type of plugs they're going to put into their wall sockets. They're all different. So it's Jesus told us these guys are not going to get along, but they want to ascend, and again they're in love with war. They're in love with death. And they're upside down thinking that, oh, we can stop Russia, you know, with the military power that Russia has with these hypersonic missiles. He could take out 15 capitals with one missile
Quickly.
quickly, you know, before they even get out of bed from the phone call that a missile's on the way. You know, they'll be dead. So it, it, instability is coming to the whole world. And this will bring forth a lot of changes in the world. I mean, when I look at everything in the financial markets, which I think we'll talk about later, everything is on a seesaw.
Well, let's get into it now. It's because it's the next thing. Bondcopalypse, that's what they call it. You know, the bond market is struggling. Oil is surging. Obviously, the problem with Iran is causing that. Moody's downgrading the U.S. I think credit rating, I think the lowest since like 1917 or something like that. So let's talk about that, in particularly U.S. and Japan are
Yeah,
the main troubles at this moment. Now, Europe is in shambles, China's in shambles, but right now it just seems like it's bigger than what happened to Greece way back in 2010, 2012. I'll turn it over to you, David.
yeah. It's like I said, the economy is like on this seesaw. It's just barely going up and down. It doesn't know what to do. People are thinking, should the central banks jump in? And this is the case in Japan. Why they had some problems is they wanted the central bank again to jump in and help stabilize the markets, and their bonds are falling. But money always has to go somewhere. So where is money going? We're seeing money is now moving into India
Yeah.
and everything. But they better pay attention to the world's things because they got investments around the world. And for America, this seesaw is they're really looking for a bad jobs report. You know, they want Trump's policies not to work. So if you get a bad jobs report, maybe the Fed will come in and do some rate cuts because we're seeing our bonds go up so much and we have trillions of dollars, which has to be renegotiated by the end of this year. So we need to get cuts anyway. Inflation is down. You know, we've hit our goal, but yet the Fed is still refusing to enter in and start doing rate cuts so we could get the people could start borrowing again on houses, which is what America is built on, is our real estate markets and the moving of money. And so I mean we're finding commodities all over the world lowering. I don't know if you saw Argentina, who blessed Israel, by the way, has
Yeah, they
found the
did.
largest copper deposits, gold deposits, and silver deposits there's been in the last 20 years. Gee, look what happens when you bless Israel. You
Man,
know,
we're blessed, Argentina. And
yeah. And
wonderful people, wonderful people.
so Japan is teetering, and we'll see what happens. But and also, like I said, the markets don't see there's great instability. Okay, they're hanging in there. I think I'm down 1/10% in my investments, not much, you know. So it shows you where the markets is just teetering there, and we'll see what happens. But I think there's some uh, um, within within the markets. You have I lost my thought. Sorry, made me need another cup of coffee. But I, I do need know that if the bill that has been advanced, which people think is going to add $3 trillion of debt to the economy, and this is what's scaring people and why the downgrade of Moody's. Although, if you remember, back under Obama, Moody's did this just on the advice of
Yeah.
Mr. Obama. They're kind of liberal in their thinking. They don't really love America either.
No,
But
Joe, same thing with Joe Biden's administration. Nobody batted an
that's
eye. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, nobody mentions that he put $2 or $3 on our backs too, with that whip inflation now.
Yeah.
Which,
Biden
and
is
I
fine.
remember what bread and eggs cost. Okay, but if the Senate comes in and brings some stability, which is the natural history of the Senate, the House was made to be flash and fire and bring, all this debate and everything. But the Senate was always supposed to be men that stand back and then try to bring stability to the issue. So if they can cut some things, and we do know there's some people that want to cut in the Senate, and maybe if they come out with something and increase some things, taxes or something to balance it out, maybe we'll see a good turnaround. But hopefully, let's hope the Senate does what the Senate has done historically, bring balance to this. And because I know Mr. Trump wants to get a lot of these tax cuts in, especially the Trump tax cuts finalized, plus the tax on tips. And if you remember, it passed the Senate 100 to nothing. I don't know if you guys saw Ted Cruz's bill. He passed no tax on tips, and every Democrat voted for it. So that's a nice tip on the nice cut for the people on the lower end, but it'll have to be codified in the House of Reps and get onto Mr. Trump's desk. So
David, I'll stay with you real quick, but the problem really is debt, isn't it? The US,
yes,
the UK, China, Japan borrowed a lot of money the last 5 years, a lot of money. So they have to sell bonds to recover this, and not a lot of people want to touch the debt right now. So do you see it getting worse on the bond market? Because that literally is the sort of the tip of the spear when it comes to economic resolutions.
country bonds have been are being downgraded, and people are very leery of them because of this. But remember, money's got to go somewhere. So where is it going? Like I said, some is going into India, some is going into other countries that have good growth, but also corporate bonds, because you got corporations making good money. And still, this last quarter, the reports, people were still making money. So there's corporate bonds, and so money can go in there, and they're paying decent rates and having some good stability and good credit ratings. I have a few in some corporate bonds, and so it's you have to do that sometimes, and worldwide, there's corporations are making money, so. Uh, it's going to just keep moving. So let's pray that the Senate downgrades some of the debt, finds a way to work with it, and everybody is worried about this bill in the House touched the third rail for Medicare. And we're blowing up because all us seniors are afraid they're going to take away our Medicare. But if you read the bills, they're trying to take away the fraud in Medicare, like
Fraud in Medicare, yeah.
$2.7 trillion last year sent overseas for Medicare, which is illegal. You cut that one aspect of it out. There's the 3 trillion.
No,
So
but
let's
very,
fix the fraud. Oh no, we don't want to do that, man. We got to keep the bad money flowing.
yeah, because somebody's getting paid for that for sure. I'm going to
Yeah.
go over to Jay real quick. Jay, one guy that was trying to fix the economy in his own country, Cyril Ramaphosa from South Africa. He was just here. He was just here talking about economic talks and trying to get robust strategic escalation of capital investment into South Africa and all the stuff because they're very connected to the BRICS, very connected to the EU, and trying to shape that global power that they maybe once were, not were. We can make a case of they have gold, they have some resources, but it literally turned into, let's talk about what's going on in your country, President Ramaphosa. So it went from strategic talks about economics and sanctions to now, what about the genocide of white South African farmers there. So let's start with you there. And it wasn't comical in a sense of obviously these are tough issues to discuss, but his reaction to Trump taking him to task on allowing literally this is a genocide of white farmers in South Africa.
Well, I don't know if Ramaphosa was being coached by Kash Patel, but his body language was exactly the same. What are you talking about? Of course there's no death of white South African farmers in my country. We're a beautiful democracy where everybody lives in peace and harmony. It's a utopian society filled with economic, prosperity. Of course, again, what is he interested in? He's interested in money.
Money.
Why does he need money? Why isn't the economy of a major gold producer, a major
Huge.
diamond producer,
Huge.
why is it failing? Could it be that there's an exodus of people trying to get out of South Africa? In fact, we had our first few refugees come to the United States, and everybody was up in arms. How dare you bring in the wrong color people, refugees into this country?
And I guess they were more patriotic than most people that I've seen, Hispanics or other races coming into the country while they waved their own flag and coming into the United States. These white South African farmers were very humble, very grateful, very gracious to the country, waving American flags and wanting to go forward and make this their new country. Very, very different than what I've seen.
And if they apply the same work ethic that they did in South Africa here, they'll be very successful. And that they will be a boost to the American economy like you'll never see. And as far as I'm concerned, they are the right refugees. They're literally under the pain of death. They're not economic refugees. There's headhunting of specific people into South Africa.
The comic, I guess the comical part about all this is Trump, he's denying, Ramaphosa is denying no, this is just made up stuff. And he said, well, let's go to the video. And he literally had a video set up, ready to go. Then the lights, please. And he had to watch this video of, oh my goodness, the chanting of kill the boer, basically kill the white farmer. The crosses that are laid out across the field, and many other politicians talking about giving, in a sense, active members of parliament, by the way, in South Africa, fanning the flames of going after white farmers. So this was, this is not an isolated incident. I don't know how Ramaphosa was trying to get away from that, but he said it out loud. He's like, I don't have a plane to give you. That was a shot.
That's called parting shot.
Yes, yeah. When you're done,
yeah,
you can get a shot in, right? And of course, the media outlets immediately accused Trump of pushing fake. But David Lister, we know that this is not all fake.
No.
We know from brothers and sisters in South Africa, Moriel, South Africa, that the targeting of white South Africans has ramped up over the years. And many farmers, there have been many documentaries made. There was one Canadian filmmaker that she did a really good job of, I forget her name. Jay, do you know off the top of your head?
I will look it up.
Lauren Southern.
Yes.
Lauren Southern, yeah. And in terms of how she on the ground dealing with that. So David Lister, we know this is not all fake news. There may be some discussion of how much it is, but definitely it is happening, and we know that from believers that are on the ground floor there. Broken promises, broken land. Many South Africans I met outside of South Africa that weep over what has happened to their country. But you've been there, many people from there. Your thoughts?
Well, this is a continuation of what happened in Zimbabwe when Mugabe took over. He said, I want to de-white. Well, he didn't use that term, but he wanted to de-white Zimbabwe. He wanted to get rid of them all. And if you remember, he even ate a few whites. It was reported. So he did that, how did he do it? He went after the farmers, promising the Zimbabwe fed Africa, and they had all these giant farms that were run and were making money and feeding and making Zimbabwe rich. Well, the thing is that he promised all the land to the poor, and he was able to rally that. And so this is now being repeated in South Africa. And I remember personally a couple I met on an Israel tour from Zimbabwe, and I would call them every week, a couple weeks, and encourage them, hang in there, because they wanted to stay in the land. They were actually trying to teach those people that were working with them how to farm, and not just farm, but how to farm and to what to do. And but one day I called and the phone just rang and rang, and there's always somebody at the house because you got to stay at the house to protect the house, and that was unusual. There was no ring. And I called a week later and nothing. And I've never been, they would have contacted me via email or phone or something, but now they're gone. But they were believers. And the same thing is happening here is they're getting rid of the white farmers. And I know Trump kind of misspoke, but it was truth what he was saying. These crosses represent the death of at least 1,000 farmers. Okay. And they do have a burial site. They weren't buried on that road, but this is a memorial, much like here in America. Your son, your daughter, your family dies, and they put some crosses there. And so this is to memorialize this and to bring this forth to show the world that a tragedy is going on. Now, it's not a genocide. We're not going to get rid of all South Africans. Many have gotten out of South Africa already, including Rihanna and Pierre, who are Christians and got out long ago and have reestablished their life. And please pray for Pierre as he's recently lost his job. Our New Zealand administrator, he's got good tech skills, so he'll probably end up somewhere. But in South Africa, they're killing the farmers, they're promising the land. And so is that what's going to happen at the end? Well, no, what happens is the rich politicians get the best lands, and the poor people get moved over to the crappy land where you can't grow anything. So the poor remain poor, and the rich get richer, and it's the love of money. It's nothing new under the sun here in South Africa. And yes, the whites are being, they want them out. And recently, I don't know if you saw, but there's hundreds of people in the gold mines that produce money for South Africa are trapped in a mine down there in South Africa. It said hundreds. It literally said hundreds are trapped inside. So gold production has slowed down. So anyway, what a mess in South Africa. It's nothing new. It's been done before, and they're doing it now. And yes, he came and lied and said, "Oh yeah, a funny shot. Yeah, no plane, but yet."
What a
What
liar.
are we going to do? They look, Mandela, who I don't believe is bad as the terrorist he put in behind him in the ANC. There's films out there you can go watch him after he was released from prison saying, "Kill the Boers."
Yep.
And ongoing, the youth have gotten in to kill the Boers. So there's free reign and no justice for if you're white.
No. Davey, I'm going to go to you. The ultra anti-white president Ramaphosa, who's been caught on video saying, land expropriation, land taken away from white farmers with no compensation, armed with the government and trying to take away land. And we know this happened, and even though they try to deny it, but you met believers in Australia. Actually, believers in Australia and New Zealand that are from South Africa, wonderful believers. David mentioned Rihanna, David mentioned Pierre, but you met others. And when I was there, it was quite amazing. A lot of believers in our meetings were from South Africa. It was quite amazing. What wonderful, godly people. But your thoughts in Australia? They've received a lot of immigrants from South Africa. I think, especially in Perth, which I think it's closer to South Africa, so a lot of them came into Perth. But your thoughts from an Australian perspective, and having met a lot of believers from South Africa.
Yeah, well, actually, when we were in Perth, I think over 50% of the people attending the meetings there were originally from South Africa. So there are a lot of South African immigrants here. Even in the town I live, there's quite a number of South African, refugees. Oh, well, they've come here to get away from what's going on over there. Basically, they saw the writing on the wall. They knew it was time to get out. Uh, One of the great things is a lot of them do have a some kind of Christian faith too. I'm talking just in general. I'm not just talking about the believers that we met in, at the meetings. I'm talking in at the South African people here in town. A lot of them do have they do have a professing faith in Christ.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah, sometimes that can be a little bit convoluted. It can be a little bit mixed up. I'm just going by the ones I kind of know here in town. But look, there's some great solid believers amongst the people that we know, from South Africa. Yeah, is what's been going on there is a real genocide, and it's one that the media doesn't want to talk about or wants to sweep under the rug. And even recently, I was surprised it was reported on our mainstream media here. But all they did was use it as another thing to paint Trump as, Trump bad, that kind of thing, just to make him look like an idiot the way they portrayed it. But yeah, what's going on there is heartbreaking, and we do know believers in South Africa. We've had people from South Africa write and request the USBs with the teachings,
Praise the
and
Lord.
trying to send them to them has been a difficult thing. In many cases, a lot of them don't have a postal service. We did send one. It never to one lady. It never arrived. Thank you to Mike and David in the UK who came up with the download link. So if you are in South Africa or a place where you don't have postal service and you are wanting to get hold of Marco's teachings or Jacob's teachings, yeah, please email me and we can send you the link where you can download the teachings and that. But yeah, the conditions over there have been shocking, absolutely shocking. And actually, one lady, she actually had to wait till she went to the UK. She went there for work for about 8 weeks. So we made arrangements to have a USB sent to her while she was there. But what is going on there? Yeah, please keep the believers in prayer there. And most of them are very isolated, have very little fellowship one with another.
Thank you so much, David, for that. And I'm going to go to David Lister real quick. David, I'm going to switch gears, but one final thought about South Africa before we switch gears is you've seen the gospel there. A lot of believers that were there. A lot of believers have left. A lot of false teaching that was propagated, unfortunately, by South African false teachers. This is not necessarily blaming the believers there, but the false
Howard
teachers there.
Brown.
Yeah, and among others, right? But what do you think it's the? I mean, we should bring Mike on, and then I'm just thinking about Mike Benatti, and maybe we should bring him on and talk about this on another session. But what do you think it's the future there for South African believers, the church there, the believers there, when you see all not only the economic problems, the social problems, racial problems, but even the own government doesn't really care for the believers or the white farmers. So what do you think?
For me, I see a future of increasing persecution. By the way, James and Marco, I just sent you an email from Jacob. You might want to take a quick look at it. Um, um, Things are what you're seeing there and what we're seeing in the rest of the world is increasing persecution of believers. It's against Jews and it's against believers. And because we're believers and we live in a country where persecution is not as bad, okay? It's things are it hadn't hit us totally that this persecution is rising. This persecution is coming. We have righteousness and God is protecting us for now, but there is a time where we know that Jesus said there will be increased persecution, there will be increased deception, there will be increased apostasy. So people better, get back and make sure they're right with the Lord, because it is rising. While we have someone like Mr. Trump right now is strong enough to hold back the tide, but he's just a man. He's pro-Jew, pro-Christian, but he's still trying to reshape the world in the way of money, money diplomacy, not necessarily diplomacy from strength, but diplomacy and money. That's why Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and all this, which is a good way to do things, but you're bringing a bigger infection into like Jay talked about. You bring in Saudi and all this money in, but they have to, they're also importing the religion. So, and it's a dangerous thing because you have freedom of religion here, but Islamic invasion is it's subtle, and then it's too late, So it's coming, Marco. It's coming.
Yeah, and sticking with that, David, the reality of where South Africa is, a lot of it stems from the fact that the U.S. was very unwilling during the Obama administration for 8 years, during the Biden administration for 4 years, unwilling to lift a finger to try to deal with the South African issue, which was coming, and they were very problematic at the time those two administrations were there. I think Trump's the only one that's been like, let's bring the refugees in, let's get these people out of there because it's not going well. And we know now regarding cover-ups, right? Covering up in South Africa, the cover-ups here have been just as equally bad. The media covered the mental capacity of Biden. Now they've covered the fact that he has prostate cancer, high level, by the way, high level, score of 9, and has metastasized into his bones. I wanted to get your thoughts on that because it's one cover up after the other. We don't know who was signing the executive orders. We don't know who had the auto pen. We don't know when they knew about the cancer, when they knew about the mental acumen of him, and when it started going out. They're going to do an investigation. It's not going to do much. But a lot of the problems come from the fact that the media covered it. Now the media wants to be the investigative journalists for these cover-ups. I don't know how that's going to work, but Biden's mental deterioration has been clear. Now the cancer's here. It's a big problem. One congressman says this is one of the biggest scandals in American history. We don't know who was president for 4 years.
That's right.
Yes, we do. he was in his basement with his sweatpants. Come on. Come on.
I have a pen and a phone. That's right. Yeah. It is.
All kidding aside, Jay's right. But the fact that how can they just be swept under the rug, David? I mean, try to untangle this.
Well, let me do it in 2 words: Operation Paperclip.
All right.
Money buys lots of stuff, and the media has been bought off before Walter Cronkite, and it's a tool of the CIA to form policy that it wants. And so media gets checks. And then also there's a pretty interesting site out there. It's got word of the day. It's called Word for the Day. It's the word that the Democrats send out to all the to the media, and every place where you see across the United States, hundreds of TV stations. Yesterday, the word was ambushed.
Oh,
For Ramaphosa, Trump
Yeah. Trump
ambushed him.
ambushed him. Yeah.
Yeah, so exposing one's crime is now an ambush, so we see they're bought off. They're going to continue buying this off because they believe that they have an evil conscience, just like the people that are buying them off. And they don't. I mean, look, the videos are out there of Peter Ducey confronting at least 7 times that I can remember Biden's mental capacity. But they just, no, he's fine. He's sharp as a tack. Maybe one of them tacks that's been beat down, after you step on it. So it's that type. They'll never admit this. And if they're going to investigate it,
David, they meant Tic Tac,
Jay,
not
you
tack.
could write that report right now. But we know the results. Yeah, he was. Yeah, it was just the last few days, that this caught up with him. But I do know of a man who died of prostate cancer, and it was wickedly bad. Screams throughout the night because of the pain and the inability of the narcotics to stop.
Yeah.
And so, but never be surprised when punishment comes upon the wicked. Scriptures tell us, it overtakes them. And, look, we all know that God will bring justice, but we usually as humans want it now, but we do know there's an ultimate end for them. And
the wheels of justice from the Lord never stop. They might be slow, but they grind. They grind.
You just reminded me of something too, David. No, I don't delight in this, but didn't Biden make the claims that he was going to cure cancer a number of times?
Yeah, he wanted it because, look, his favorite son, his son that he really loved, who seemed to be a good man. I mean, I don't know the inside. He served in the military thing.
Oh, yeah.
May have had a career that would have brought him into politics. And so, of course, when he died, a piece of Biden went with his son, which was natural because it's not natural for a father to bury a son. And so, but anyway, Biden is going to be suffering greatly, here. And it's not that I'm taking any joy in it. I would rather see him repent, but I don't know if it's possible. But the press all knew it. They want to cover it up. They want to be able to have their reputation intact. And so that's the whole thing of saying we didn't see it, but yet we know from the internet, everybody knew it outright. And it was only when they get these masks made out of money put in front of them, and they're not rose colored, they're money colored. And then that's how they didn't see.
If you really want to see a circus, have the FBI investigate if there was collusion between the White House and the media.
And talk about that would be amazing. Jay, I'm going to stay with you, Jay. The book that is going to supposedly blow the lid off this by the best reporter we have, Jake Tapper, the best reporter in the world. Jake Tapper is going to unleash, and his book is called, now listen to this, Original Sin. That's what the book is called, Original Sin, the cover-up and the disastrous choice to run again. What a world when you have, Jay, the Operation Mockingbird mean anything to you?
Yeah, it means a lot. Mockingbird definitely does. It's funny. It's Original Sin. Jake Tapper, did you eat the fruit? Do you have knowledge of good and evil finally? Did you suddenly come to the knowledge that it is good to expose the truth? Because you've been paid to tell lies all your life, it seems. It's Operation Mockingbird is it's propaganda. When we talk about network media, when we talk about Hollywood, it is all propaganda. It is all social engineering. We've heard of geoengineering. We've heard of weather engineering. There's also social engineering. And you can see social engineering. You can see it on both the right and the left. I'm not going to say that the right is always, not engineered and they're independent thinkers. That's not true. And I'm not going to say that the left are that either. For the most part, you can see social engineering very well in when you have someone who's rampant. Perfect example is kind of going back to Kash Patel. When you can say with a straight face, well, everybody else in the world knows that it's a lie, and you can say it, and a number of people will pick that up and say, see, this is the truth. Let's go back to a few years ago, 2020. You know what? 2 weeks, and we'll go ahead and get that curve down. That's the Operation Mockingbird. That's what they did with Biden. It's the same as with the jab. It's like, oh no. This is going to be beneficial to have a president as smart and as brilliant and with an IQ like Joe Biden. Meanwhile, if you're drinking that Kool-Aid, you're getting double vexed, basically.
You know what the sad part about the Jake Tapper situation? He's Jewish, but he doesn't lift a finger with the media, weight that he has. He's well known. I don't want to call him a journalist, but let's say he's well known media personality. He doesn't lift a finger for the Jewish cause or Israel. He is again on the liberal side, on the left side, who cares nothing really about his own people, his own ancestry, and it is a sad thing to see. That's the reality.
He's paid.
Completely sell out.
His God is his geld.
Yeah.
To put it bluntly.
Yeah, and it's so. I mean, it's one thing when Gentiles do it, right? There's plenty of sin there, but boy, does it accentuate it when Jews, who were supposed to be God's people in the world, to let the world know the one true God, are just as bad, if not worse, than the sins of the Gentiles. And that's what God told Israel. Like, their sins are actually worse than the Gentiles because you know me, you know better, and you just really choose to walk away from the living God.
When I think about Jake Tapper, I think about the original Judah, the son of Jacob Judah, where it's, here, give me 20 pieces of silver. Here's Joseph.
I'll sell him out.
Yep, sell him right out. And that's the same thing Jake Tapper does every week when he is on the air. He sells out.
All right. Well, I think we should talk about this. One final thought is the evangelicals' urge for AI, to have an AI president. And this came out this couple of weeks ago, but particularly this week, there's an advisory council, right, to deal with ethical questions regarding AI. Now, this is the latest signal of a community of faith that wants to have Trump be, let's say, the AI president. This is what evangelical leaders, and I'm using the word evangelical in a very broad and loose way, okay, meaning that these people claim to be evangelicals, right? And about a dozen of them went to Trump to usher the artificial intelligence concerns as well as promotion of it. It's called Christianity in the New Age of AI. These are leaders like Johnny Moore, Congress of Christian Leaders, Reverend Samuel Rodriguez, Hispanic Christian Leadership Conference, Total New Apostolic Reformation. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying these guys are good. There is the Assemblies of God President, Doug Clay, Tim Clinton, on and on and on. And what they wanted to address is, Trump, we want you to be the AI president. Not only we want you to move forward with AI, but understand that we need to have regulations and safety and things like that. So that's basically the gist of it. Now, I'm going to tie in another component. The very same people are so elated that Pope, I'm going to call him Pope Leo because he's just, Francis. Let's say call him Robert Francis Prevost, right? That they are elated that on his first address to the cardinals, to the College of Cardinals, it was about the challenges of humanity and AI, how he took the name Leo because Leo the 13th dealt with the Industrial Revolution back in the 1800s, at the turn of the century. And now he's going to lead the Catholic Church, AKA, in the world, to the new age, right? Not industrial revolution, but a new revolution of information. And he wants to take the Catholic Church to be the leader of privacy, the leader of teaching humanity, human rights, and how to work within the potential dangers of AI. So you have the marriage of, evangelical leaders and Catholic leaders who are saying, "Hey, we need to have a regulation on AI," and the Pope wants to be sort of the leader on that. So we'll start there. The AI president, David Lister, we'll start with you. AI president, AI development, skeptical, promotion, you name it, they all did it. They're all talking about the greatness of AI and the potential danger of it. How should we relate to this as Christians, right? Is it inevitable? Is it, should we support it? Should we be very skeptical of it? But I think everyone has a different perspective on that, but I just wanted yours first.
Well, I always think back to Son House, old blues singer. He said, "I'm going to become a Baptist pastor so I don't have to work anymore." I guess AI could make sermons for pastors, which would be generic and probably without soul, and probably not being able to do well for the condition of their flock. You know, I know. I know, Marco, you work hard at being a pastor. I know that you work hard at your sermons and everything, and I mean, when you get full of the Word of God, it makes it a little easier. But you got to put the work in the front end, and so it will, like I know some churches over in the Philippines, and I know they belong to a congregation, and each pastor in this denomination that are local Filipino pastors, they get a sermon from the head branch, and every one of them have the same one. So I know it's not fulfilling that need of the local sheep. How could it? You know what I mean? So for me, I see it as danger in that people are not going to be hearing the word of God for them personally, if that makes sense of what I'm trying to say here, is that they'll hear milk and bread and everything, but they won't be addressing the condition of the flock.
Hmm.
And because everybody's different everywhere, and a good pastor is going to be tuned into the Holy Spirit that is the head of that church, and going to be wanting to give him a word to lead the sheep and give them good water, good food, good bread, and good meat. But it's rare today over in the third world. But
Hmm.
AI, hey, that's my take. I think what will happen, it'll be a soulless connection devoid of the Holy Spirit's leading, and these guys won't have to work no more.
Well, that song was actually quite accurate, right? Quite accurate.
Yeah.
Jay, I'm going to go to you. Is it inevitable? Should Christians be supporting the development of it? And is there a dual nature of AI? There's obviously the good and the evil side of it. And what about the ethical issues? And what about the privacy issue? Because that's really at the heart of AI. Can pretty much find anything else about you.
Well, this conversation reminds me of a car ride that we had in Israel. We were all packed in that van for 9 hours, and to entertain ourselves, I remember we were stopped. We were waiting, driving out to some place in the Galilee, and just for fun, they were throwing out topics to me and I said, I'll have ChatGPT make a sermon about not drinking anymore. And Jacob, and you listened as I presented it as a Baptist pastor would, in a fiery, Baptist pastor version, and you both said the same thing. Wow, that's incredible. Some of that is pretty sound doctrine. It's a tool. I do agree with David. If you do not have basic understanding of the word, if you haven't studied to show yourself approved, there is a danger of it being milk. But I will also say this, people, for me, I need to always Google. I have like the first 3 words of the scripture. I'm not as good as with memorization as other people, but I usually within 3 words I can get it there. And then with AI, it's that much easier to find those scriptures. It's almost immediate. It's
Yeah,
boom, 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 boom.
that part I support. I agree. Yeah.
So I would say if you're using it to augment and refine your sermons, I don't see a problem with that. But if you're saying, because I'll tell you what I understand. In most cases with churches, there's a calendar, and they say these are the scriptures you will preach on for this day in the ecumenical calendar or the ecclesiastical calendar. Sorry, ecumenical is not right. And then
You're
all the
not wrong either.
and then all the pastors
Freudian slip.
of that denomination will actually preach on those scriptures for that day. So around the world, there'll be a little bit of a difference between this pastor and that pastor, his insight and that insight,
Yeah.
but the scriptures will be the same for that day. And to David's point, you wanna rob like the spirit moving, force feed a pastor to preach on exactly that day. That will instantly do that. To David's point further, yes. Yeah, when you're preaching, you have to listen to the people around you, some of the conflicts that happen in church inevitably, some of the questions that are brought to you, some of the concerns. You have to factor all of that in to tailor a sermon that's going to feed your flock. Also, it depends, what style of sermon are you doing? Are you doing verse by verse to get through a book? Or is it a topical message that's needed for that moment? It all depends, and AI can be used to great advantage, but it can also be used to the detriment. Just like I was talking about, it can force pastors to no longer take their work seriously. It can make them hirelings instantly. Um, Unfortunately, with the world that we live in the next few years, I think all jobs will be affected by AI to the point where a lot of people will wonder, what do I do with my time? And I have an answer for you. AI can't evangelize. You can.
So I
Amen.
got a question, Marco. First, we had 150,000 pastors getting sermons from Rick Warren.
Yeah.
Now we're going to have from there. So which one do we choose? Warren, AI?
I don't
Well,
know. Go ahead, David.
oh, well, this is a concerning thing too, because I was reading the article, and this initiative or advisory council is going to be made up of people of faiths. So that's faiths plural, ethicists and others, to ensure AI aligns with ethical and human-centered values. So it's going to be human-centered. It's not going to be just made up of Christians. It's going to be made up of other people of other faiths. And you've got Pope Leo or whatever his name, Bob or whatever you want to call him.
Bob, yeah.
Yeah. And also, what's he want to do? He wants to be a people of faith too. He wants to unite and have this ecumenical sort of thing too. So, look, I think this is actually kind of a bad thing, because, okay, we don't want to be getting influence from other faiths. We don't want to mix a melting pot. And the words both of them used is that they're doing it for the common good. And it's kind of like every time I hear that, yeah, every time something's for our common good, it's usually means trouble for us, bad news for us.
No, absolutely. And I have to bring the inevitable, right? We're putting so much emphasis on a human product, right? This is a product of human ingenuity, human intelligence, and it's what's called artificial intelligence. We made it. It's basically made after us, and it's for people that don't know, it's just a large language model, what they call LLM. Now it's getting better and it's learning. It's got learning technology and things like that, and it's going to continue to get better. But at the moment, it's just simply, like Jay was talking about Google. It's just like a large search engine with very specific things and very descriptive in how it gives you things. So it is somewhat interesting when you use it. It does give you some very, you want to schedule, you want to research something. It can dive very deep into things very quickly. But I got to ask inevitably, are we going down the road of this artificial intelligence being so good, it'll not only replace humanity, but it'll have its own entity and in robotics, which is the next level of AI, robotics. And will we see Revelation 13 verses 14 and 15 within our lifetime, our kids' lifetime, generation comes after us, where there will be an image of the beast that will be almost lifelike. And is this where we're heading? This is what the inevitable thing with AI. Is it inevitable? And does the Bible present us the roadmap to, and then the end result of it, it will be satanic.
I just want to comment. I was at a good friend of ours' birthday party this weekend.
Oh yeah.
Roberts, our
Happy birthday,
photographer.
Robert. Happy birthday, Robert.
And I was talking with one of the guys has the unlocked version of ChatGPT. I have the basic. He has the premium. The price is like $200 a month as opposed to 275. And we were talking about it. He's like, "Have you ever asked ChatGPT about problems with your dad?" And I was like, it does have that capability, and it's true. I think it's even further than what you're saying, Marco. I think we're talking about pastors right now, but I think ChatGPT is going to replace doctors. I think AI is going to replace counselors and psychiatrists. It's any job that can be done by a man sitting at a desk talking to you. AI is going to take that job, and it's going to do a better job than a human being. Because it's going to the difference is most people today will understand the hearts of men have gone cold. Many people's hearts have grown cold. AI loves you like it was your mother. It's all about pleasing you in the moments that you're using it, and that's the danger of it.
Yeah. No, I've seen Jay, where you can actually tell. I think it's Chatbot GPT. I'm pretty sure it is that you can tell. Do the role of a counselor with the
Yes.
PhD of some sort. And this is my problem, right? And literally, it will. And from what I've never used that prompt, but I know people that have, and then it'll tell you, as good as a certified psychiatrist or whoever, that yeah, this is the problem. This is how you can. These are the steps to fix it. And I think Google has that you can interact. I think ChatGPT does too. Voice interaction where it will tell you, it will talk to you, and you can have like a conversation with this AI about your problems, and it'll give you, for lack of a better word, prescribed sound ideas that you can implement. They're obviously from men. These are not the Holy Spirit. These are not God's word or counsel, but it'll give you man's ideas of how to go about doing it without ever seeing a counselor. You're absolutely right. I may not have to go to a psychiatrist if I'm just paying $29.99 instead of all this money, or a doctor that can. I know people that have put in their blood work results, and it'll analyze it.
And give you exactly what routines you need to make, what adjustments to your dosage. I mean, these are all practical, but I'll give it to you even further. I think a lot of people will soon discover as they use it more that their friendships are not as good as the friendship they can have with a machine.
Yeah. I think we see a movie like that. I think we watched a movie like, well, not you and I together, Jay, but I think there's movies like that, right? What was that? Her?
Her.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Are we here yet? I mean,
we're already there.
Yeah.
And now they're going to transfer it into an actual automaton.
Yes, with the robotics. Yeah.
For those that are in the nursing field, you will be replaced, because instead of having to visit grandma and grandpa will talk to their AI robotic friend that cares more about pleasing them than you care about being lectured.
Jake, I mean, David, you can jump in anytime. I know. I think David, I think he's timed out right now, but he'll come back in. Um, could we see that now we're going to rely on this idea of robotics AI to basically do like, well, I don't want to take care of my parents. I'll just hire a robot to take care of my parents, or I have an ailing mother, and I'll just take care of that. And or God forbid, I want to go out, and I can, and I don't have a babysitter. I can have an AI robot just watch over my kids. I mean, it's safe, right? I mean, it literally will change, quite a bit of perspective on that. And I know it's tackle that issue, David, and then I'll come back another issue that I want to bring up.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's kind of look. It is very sad and very frightening. I have kind of did read an article this week on um, people who are having relationships with like their AI. That kind of thing is increasing, and it is actually sad to think that we've got to that stage. But basically, to shirk a person's responsibilities, I think AI is a tool. It needs to remain a tool. It shouldn't be there to replace things like that. Where I kind of see, I think all that kind of stuff may be just the lure, the hook to get people in. But I kind of see it heading to, I see probably more the sinister side of it. I kind of think more like the movie Tron, the original movie Tron, the master control program where you cannot do anything unless you've got your identity disk, and everything you do is imprinted on that disk, kind of like the master control program, the identity disk being kind of like the mark of the beast kind of thing. I always thought it was interesting with the original movie Tron 2 that Sark gets the fatal head wound, and then he's kind of resurrected at the end
Very,
by the MCP,
Wow.
kind of like
Wow.
foreshadowing what's going to happen with the Antichrist, where he gets a resurrection. But uh, the control? I always remember what Hitler. Could you imagine if Hitler had the computer technology that we have nowadays, tracking down, the
total
people he
surveillance.
wanted to eliminate and exterminate?
Total surveillance.
Yeah, that is where I kind of see it heading to, and I think the other is probably just a lure to get people in. It is very sad though that people now are um, more happier having a relationship with AI, with something that's fake, which is something that's artificial, which is something that is man-made, than having a relationship with a person, or or even a dog. It's kind of like I love
Yeah.
God's creation. It's kind of like it's the one thing I'd love. I'd love a dog of my own. It's kind of
Well,
you've got to invest time. It's rewarding. You invest in them. It teaches you responsibility. What's AI going to teach?
well,
Just
Davey,
be
I
lazy.
would just say real quickly, AI does what Christians are supposed to do. AI basically puts you above itself, and Christians have a real problem doing that.
Yeah, no, 100%. It might be the idea of a cure for loneliness, right? It's so many Christians are so lonely today, and so many men are so lonely in the world. It may be leading to that as well. But what about Jay? What about surveillance, Jay, in terms of the
Oh,
issue? I mean, they didn't bring it up here in terms of. I mean, they have the ethical issues, and it was so broad you can't really like. Okay, what do they mean by that? But obviously, there's a surveillance issue. There's the digital ID issue. There's the monitoring of having to be identified on the internet and having your verification on the internet. That is all going to be captured by AI and regulated by AI. So I mean, dangerous road, isn't it?
you know, about 20 years ago, they said, basically in some room in the CIA, what if we created an app where everybody would willingly give us a dossier of where they go, who their contacts are, when they were born, and what they're thinking by writing different messages and posts to everybody. This is just a outgrowth of that same idea. AI, the more you interact, the more information it has with you. And supposedly, according to ChatGPT and the rest of the AIs, we don't remember or retain any of the information that you interact with the AI. It's completely, non-disclosure. Uh-huh. I don't believe that.
No, no, not at all. And the other issue that it was obviously is the money issue, right? The idea of a digital currency that is going to be, of course, overseen by AI, integration with AI and robotics, and that is really, I mean, if you put it all together, if you see it down the road and follow it to its logical conclusion, you have to conclude somewhere in Revelation 13, isn't it? I mean, I'm not trying to be scandalous about it and just make a huge issue of it. But because some people would argue, be like, oh, come on, you're making a big deal about it. I just see it as a natural conclusion that this probably doesn't bode well ultimately, job replacement, cure for loneliness. It may have features that you might like research and stuff like that, and that'd be kind of cool. But what about the all the other implications? Money, economy, surveillance. Um, Go ahead. Anyone can come.
You're absolutely right. Again, you can use chlorine to clean water, to allow water to be potable for people to drink, people to use in ways that help society. You can also use chlorine and turn it into a gas and kill millions of people. The tool, it doesn't care what it does. It's the people who use the tool and how they use it. And AI, unfortunately, it's a tool plus, because it's a tool that eventually, if it does not already, will have a consciousness where you are the tool rather than you using the tool.
Using the tool. Yeah, that's ultimately. Davey, what do you think?
Yeah, yeah. We are definitely headed towards Revelation 13, unfortunately. We've even seen precursors of it. I agree with Jay. It's a tool. Using it one-on-one to help and assist with a task, I don't necessarily have a problem with. As a replacement, yes, I do. And where I get more concerned is where you see these people getting together, the groups, together for the common good. It's going to be used for a common good, and that's going to be the problem. That's how it's going to be used more. And we've already seen people denied payments, getting their money out of banks and stuff like that now. That's going to be a lot more easy to control with AI, where everything's going to be monitored even more so than it is nowadays.
Isn't it
Yeah,
interesting, Davey, that when we're talking about AI, we're talking about faith too. We're talking about the Catholic Church and other faith, and we're talking about Christian leaders coming along with it. So it's not
yeah.
just some kind of like financial tech business world kind of secular ideas. Like it has
It's
to be integrated with some religious thing, isn't it?
and that's the problem. It's this amalgamation, this coming together for the common good, this uniting of other faiths. It's going to be the one world religious system. It'll play that part in it. It'll have that part in it. It'll be tied into the one world religion that's coming. Babylon the Great. It's going to be tied in.
I'm not sure if I want the Pope to be head of like ethical behavior and
I don't
surveillance.
think I want the Pope to be head of anything, to be honest.
In protection of something we know how that turns out.
Yep.
All kidding aside, David Lister, I know you're back. We got to finish this. And by the way, we'll kind of take questions after catching up. So on backstage episode, send your questions in. David Lister will today be the answers to life kind of guy, and send them in. We got the scriptures, we got answers. But David, I know you're in and out of it, but the final thoughts on. Can Christians embrace AI? How far do we go and where do we get off? Where's our exit off ramp when it comes to AI, and how far do we get into as we see it approaching very, very fast? And I mean, within a year or two, we're talking about like massive changes to the world.
Well, AI is just like I didn't hear. Sorry, it was. Please
No
pray
worries.
for Jake.
Yeah.
Anyway, but um, AI is a tool. And just like any tool, it can be used for good and it can be used for bad. And a Christian has to have a sound mind to be able to use any tool in its right way, you know, and and the abuse of AI for an unsound mind would be easy for people to be manipulated and for people to be misled. And certainly we know we see it's coming. People will use it for evil and it'll be able to deceive the billions, no longer just the millions, the billions, which we see the high deception in the first 3.5 years of Antichrist coming onto the scene. The deception is one of the main things. And what better way to send out a unified message across the world? We can be one, and of course, those that know the truth will not be able to be part of that one. So I would say, look, I use AI, but I use it sparingly, and I use it, like Jay said, to look up verses, to find things and articles I need, and to give me information about subjects that I'm talking about, So I'd say for Christian, be discerning. You better push on. The Bible tells us that we're to push on to become a mature Christian, being able to discern between good and evil and right and wrong. And if you're not there yet, time is growing short to get there.
Start now. Start now. Yeah, the book of Hebrews talks about that. So as people send in their questions, we'll take them on Rumble. So please send them in for, we got David, we got Jacob, we got Davey, Jay, and we got David. I'm thinking about Jacob right now, I'm praying for him. But if people wanted to read some really good stuff, I could recommend regarding AI. There is a really good book by a believer, John Lennox. It's called 2084, and I believe it has an updated version. So if you got the old version, like I did, get the new version. I think it's one chapter that's revised and updated with the newer technology. I do recommend the book on the basis of his information regarding 2084. I think it's got the gospel message in there, by the way, as well. It's a take on 1984, Orwell. So interesting, John Lennox. Another one is Dark Eon. By a man named Joe Allen. I don't believe, he might be a believer. I'm not sure. I can't really 100% say it, but he does write from an ethical and, more of a Christianite perspective. So that is a good book, A Dark Eon, Joe Allen. If you wanted to read something that I suppose that will tell you what the enemy's plans are, Yuval Harari has written some books on transhumanism and the joining of AI. I'm not recommending Harari to read it, but if you want to know the enemy's playbook, that is an interesting read on some of the books. I haven't read most of them, but the Homo Deus and Sapiens are probably some of that involved that in his writings, and also a book by not a believer as well, Mark Turgman. It's called Life 3.0. Life 3.0. And he is an MIT professor where he writes scenarios. It's kind of scary scenario of how AI could be a benevolent leader or it could be a dictator, and what the outcomes to humanity would be if that were the case, if he's given ultimate power. So when I hear about President AI and I hear religious leaders taking over, the idea of AI ethics and things like that, my mind goes there. I'm sorry to say, I think in terms of like, what does this ultimately mean? And of course, as Christians, we always think of what does God has shown us for the end, at the end of the age, right? That's, of course, if you believe that the book of Revelation is, future, there'll be the believers or people that believe that it's not, that it's some kind of past event, or just read it as an encouragement. But if you do that, a lot of things wouldn't even make sense today in terms of where we're headed. I believe God it's a teleological God. Telos means that there's a goal, there's an aim at the end, and God is leading us to the New Jerusalem. On the way to the New Jerusalem, these are the things that we need to deal with as Christians: tribulation, great tribulation, and then, of course, the wrath of God that has come upon the whole world. But there is a rapture, there is a coming of Christ, and there is a millennial kingdom, and there is eternity, and there is the New Jerusalem. But in the process, Revelation lays it all out. So I think at the end of the day, I would read more of the book of Revelation than anything else, but these books kind of will help you understand where we are today. But it's never a substitute to what the Holy Spirit has inspired for us to read and understand. So God bless you guys. David, thank you for being with us on Catching Up. Jay, thank you. Davey, thank you for manning the controls and leading us to broadcast this to all over the world. If you are tuning in with us right now, send the questions in. Like I said, David's got answers to live. We'll see you on Backstage. We won't be on YouTube or Facebook Live, but we'll be on all the other platforms. So meet us there in just a couple of minutes.
Hello, and thank you for watching Moriel TV. There are so many things that are happening at Moriel Ministries worldwide, from the Philippines to Japan, to India to Africa, and back to Europe and the United States. So many of our brothers and sisters are spreading the good news of Jesus Christ to this lost world. We are so thankful for your prayers. God has been faithful and has blessed us in so many ways. If you'd like to partner with our efforts abroad and at home, please take a moment to click the link in the description and help us as the Lord leads you. Thank you very much, and God bless.